Okay, so you know how some places you hear about just have this weird vibe, a reputation,
Right, right.
And a lot of folks, when they think about West Virginia, what comes to mind?
Well, probably Mothman.
Right.
Point Pleasant, glowing red eyes, that whole deal.
Exactly, exactly. It's such a famous story, and it's captivated people for so long. But what if, and this is where things get really interesting, what if the Mothman was only the beginning of the weirdness in that part of West Virginia?
Oh, I like where you're going with this, like the tip of the iceberg kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, what if that one famous creature was just kind of opening the door to all these other strange events, stuff that maybe didn't make it into the big headlines?
Right, those under-the-radar stories that maybe only the locals really know about.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to dive into today. We've uncovered some really compelling stories, all based on local accounts and firsthand experiences that really make you question what's been happening in Point Pleasant.
Okay, yeah, I'm intrigued. So beyond Mothman, what else has been going on?
Well, for starters, let's talk about these really strange individuals that started appearing not too long after the Mothman sightings kind of died down.
I'm talking about the Men in Black.
Yeah, the Men in Black, but not like the cool Will Smith kind. These were different, according to folks who actually saw them.
Different how?
Well, people describe them as stiff and super pale, almost like they had no emotions whatsoever. And they always drove these spotless black cars. They just radiated this creepy aura.
Huh, that is strange. Did they say anything to anyone?
Yeah, and it's what they asked about that's really weird. They'd always ask about the Mothman, of course.
Right.
But they'd also grill people about UFOs. It's like they already knew something about all this strange stuff, and it made everyone really uncomfortable.
I bet. It's one thing to see something weird, but it's another to have someone question you about it, especially when they seem to know more than they're letting on.
Exactly. And it's those small details that really stick with you. Like, people describe these MIB as feeling off, like they weren't quite human.
Yeah, I've heard that too, like they were wearing a suit that didn't quite fit or something.
Yes. And this really creepy detail that's always mentioned, they didn't blink or smile.
Okay, yeah, that's unsettling.
Like, not even a little bit. It makes you think, what were they really doing there? Were they trying to scare people into staying quiet, or were they actually trying to find something out?
Or both, maybe.
It's a mystery for sure. Now let's switch gears for a second and go way back in time to a story that's woven into the very history of Point Pleasant, the legend of Chief Cornstalk's curse.
Okay, yeah, I've heard bits and pieces about that. It's a powerful story.
It really is. For the who don't know, Chief Cornstalk was a leader of the Shawnee Nation, and he was betrayed and killed under a flag of truce back in 1777.
Which is just awful in itself. A flag of truce is supposed to symbolize peace and safe passage, and to violate that is a serious breach of trust.
Absolutely. But what makes this story even more eerie are the words Chief Cornstalk is said to have uttered as he lay dying. He cursed the land where he was murdered, basically saying that misfortune would follow it forever.
Wow, a dying man's curse. That's heavy stuff. Do people in Point Pleasant actually believe in the curse?
You know, it's interesting. Many locals, even if they don't want to admit it publicly, do seem to believe there's a connection between the curse and some of the bad things that have happened there.
Like, what kind of bad things are we talking about?
Well, there have been all sorts of tragedies. Floods, fires, explosions, and of course, most people remember the Silver Bridge collapse in 1967.
That was a horrible disaster.
It was, and a lot of folks believe it was one of the manifestations of the curse.
Wow. Whether the curse is real or not, the fact that people believe it adds this whole other layer to the story of Point Pleasant.
Yeah.
It's like the land itself is somehow tainted.
Right. And then there's this other local legend, a bit creepier, about a sound that people sometimes hear coming from Way Park.
What kind of sound?
It's described as a low wail, almost mournful, and it's said to be the spirit of Chief Cornstalk, still grieving and maybe even carrying out that curse. They say you mostly hear it when it's foggy, which makes it even spookier.
And that's chilling.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about the power of belief and how it can shape a place,
Definitely. Now, let's move away from the historical stuff and talk about some other strange creatures people have seen around Point Pleasant besides Mothman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's more than just Mothman.
Apparently so, especially around the old World War II TNT area.
Oh, yeah, that place is creepy all on its own, just with all that history.
Right. Well, people have reported seeing a totally different creature there, nothing like the Mothman. This thing has no wings but glowing eyes and these long rope-like arms.
Huh? That's a very different description.
Very different. And while these sightings aren't as common as the Mothman stories, the ones that do exist are pretty terrifying.
Oh, I bet. Any that stand out?
There's one story about a local who saw something dragging itself across the gravel, leaving these deep gouges. And they were adamant it was unlike any animal they'd ever seen.
What did they say exactly?
They were pretty freaked out, kept saying, wasn't no deer, wasn't no bear, wasn't anything I want to see again.
Oh, I can only imagine how scary that would be.
And it's not just creatures people see in the TNT area. They also hear things like disembodied voices coming from inside the abandoned TNT domes. They say it sounds like static with voices mixed in, just super creepy.
Yeah, that's enough to make anyone turn and run.
And people also report their truck radios going haywire in that area, like cutting out or making weird noises.
It's like the area itself is messed up somehow, like it's got this weird energy or something.
Exactly. And if it's not Mothman hanging out there, who knows what else could be connected to that place?
Maybe whatever it is, it's attracted to the leftover energy from all those munitions.
It's definitely a possibility. Speaking of weird stuff, let's hop across the Ohio River for a second to Gallipolis Ferry. Have you heard about the phantom lights people see over there?
Oh yeah, those are strange. What is it about rivers and creepy stories, huh?
Right. Well, the lights over at Gallipolis Ferry are often described as strange, hovering low over the trees, usually at night. And what's weird is how they disappear when someone looks directly at them.
Like they're shy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they know they're being watched and don't want to be seen. Even weirder, some people say the lights actually follow them as they move.
Okay, that's not shy, that's creepy.
Totally creepy. Then there's this one really unsettling story about an older guy who said a light hovered outside his window for 2 hours straight.
2 hours? That's a long time.
I know, right? And what's even weirder is that afterwards, people said he looked like he had aged a lot in those 2 hours, and his personality changed too.
Like he'd been drained or something.
That's the impression people got. What do you think those lights could be? Some kind of weird weather thing, maybe some experimental aircraft, or something completely unknown?
It's hard to say, but you can't deny the impact these experiences have on people. It makes you wonder if there are things out there that we just can't explain yet.
Yeah, and we can't talk about Point Pleasant without talking about the Ohio River itself. It's such a huge part of the area. And, well, it seems like the river might have its own secrets, too.
Makes sense. Rivers have always been seen as these powerful forces,
Mhm.
boundaries, pathways, even kind of like living memories of a place.
I like that, living memories. And it makes me think about the apparitions people have reported seeing along the riverbanks.
Oh, you like what?
Well, there have been sightings of Civil War soldiers, coal miners, even a ghostly steamboat just appearing and then vanishing.
Wow, that's spooky.
It is. They're often described as silent, just these fleeting glimpses from another time. Makes you think they could be echoes of the past somehow clinging to the river.
Yeah, like the river's holding on to these memories. And sometimes they kind of bleed through into our world.
And then there's this really interesting story from a couple of kayakers who were out on the river and felt it actually humming beneath them.
What, like a vibration?
Yeah, strong vibration, they said. And one of them was so creeped out by it that they won't go back on that part of the river anymore.
Can't blame them, that's freaky.
Totally. It makes you think about places holding on to energy or impressions from the past, like you said, those living memories. And maybe the river, because it's always flowing and has witnessed so much history, is somehow a conduit for that energy.
It's a fascinating idea. And,
Yeah.
when you put all of this together, the MIB, the curse, that other creature, the phantom lights, the river apparitions, it starts to paint this picture of Point Pleasant as something more than just a normal town.
Exactly. And that leads us to this idea that Point Pleasant is what they call a thin place.
A thin place.
Yeah, it's a term used to describe places where the boundary between worlds, our world, and whatever else might be out there is kind of weak or thin.
Interesting. So basically, it's like Point Pleasant is this portal where all sorts of weird stuff can slip through more easily.
That's the idea. And it's not just about random strange events happening. It's like the place itself is somehow different. Like it has this underlying energy that makes the impossible, well, possible.
Like the rules of reality are a little looser there.
Right. It's been described as a haunted storybook, even as a warning of some kind. And it makes you see the Mothman in a new light. Not as just a one-off creepy sighting, but as the first sign, like a messenger letting us know that even stranger things are going on.
A harbinger of even weirder stuff. I like that. And you mentioned earlier, there are stories that people are too scared to even talk about.
Yeah, that's the thing. What we've heard so far might just be scratching the surface of what's really going on in Point Pleasant.
So this thin place idea, what do you think causes it? Is it something about the land itself, the history of the place, the people who live there, or a combination of all of it?
Honestly, it's impossible to say for sure, but it's definitely something to think about.
It is. And it's a good reminder that maybe we don't know as much about the universe as we think we do.
Totally. So to wrap things up, we've talked about a lot of strange stuff today. The men in black, the curse, the creatures, the lights, the ghosts on the river, and it seems like all of it points to something really weird going on in Point Pleasant, this thin place where reality isn't quite as solid as we like to think it is.
Exactly. And I think the Mothman story, while definitely captivating, is just the gateway drug to the much bigger, much weirder mystery that is Point Pleasant.
I love that, the gateway drug to the weird. And it makes you wonder, is Point Pleasant just a place with a lot of spooky stories, or is there something truly unique about it, something that makes it a magnet for the unexplained?
Right, like is it drawing these things in, or is something allowing them to come through more easily there?
And what does that say about our understanding of reality? Is the unknown closer than we think, just lurking at the edges of what we perceive?
Those are some really big questions, and I don't think we have the answers yet, but I think it's important to keep asking them and to be open to the possibility that there's more to the world than meets the eye.
Definitely. It makes you realize that maybe the world is a lot stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined.
Absolutely.
And that's something worth thinking about, don't you think?
For sure.
Well, folks, that's it for our look at Point Pleasant. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the unexplained.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep your eyes open and your minds even more so. You never know what you might find lurking just beyond the edge of the ordinary.
You got that right.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. The West Virginia Media Lab is all about celebrating our state and its people, businesses, stories, news, and folklore. If you love West Virginia like we do, be sure to comment below, then subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to stay connected. Until next time, stay wild, wonderful, West Virginia.